So yeah, good morning, everybody. Carter Wilkins, Stacy Mildenberger. We are here with you, the champions, for another cute for team session. Champions using teams effectively. So glad you're here again today. Doing a quick glance at the list. Maybe I see a new name. I'm not sure. So I'll just say if this is your first time, where you have landed is just a place where we just come. We're all teams geeks. We're all here to geek out on teams every Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, and uh, and we're happy to take any questions. If you came with a burning question, roadmap question, feature question, anything like that, Stacy and I do our best to try to answer that. And also the group in general, everybody here helps answer. So we're a nice, happy family. So yeah, if you got a question, feel free to come off mute or throw it in the chat. We'll be looking at that. And then when there's no questions, Stacy and I like to just start rambling about teams. Um, so there's always that too. And speaking of that, I did have a couple things I want to mention. Again, feel free to use the chat as I talk, but I did want to mention, let me go here. Um, you may have heard that Yammer is evolving to Viva Engage. And for the government customers on the line, both Viva and Yammer, you know, maybe a slow adoption for you. We know Yammer does not have a government fully government certified version per se, so a lot of government customers tend to lean away from it. I did want to mention it though. And I'm curious if there are some comments from you, whether you've used it, whether you um, are vehemently against it. But there's a lot of different varying, even in commercial. You know, you got some folks who love Yammer, some who say, "Well, I've got Teams. Why do I need Yammer?" So that may be part of the reason why it's kind of getting rolled together. But if you've never seen Yammer, it is essentially a forum or discussion board kind of interface for us Teams users these days. It's very similar to what we're doing in our channels and chats. The main thing I wanted to say about it and this whole Viva Engage and Yammer um, combination here is that if you were a Yammer user in the past or were thinking about Yammer, I have been a Yammer user from before Teams was around, and I was just going to mainly say that the Yammer integration with Teams has gotten a lot better even before this announcement, right? So in the past, it was a pain to leave my comfy Yammer world, I mean, my comfy Teams world, go over to my browser and then do my Yammer stuff there and go back and forth. Over time, there then became, ways to see my Yammer, through an app in Teams, and even, and this was to me the game changer, to then have notifications about Yammer activity coming in Teams, to the point that now Yammer and Teams they feel pretty integrated, which probably makes sense. That thus the next step is let's make that integration, official. So I do think there is a difference, in, if nothing else, in terms of the breadth of people. Usually, a Yammer community is a lot, and certainly our teams can be large, but those Yammer communities that you're a part of tend to be bigger. More eyeballs on the things that are happening there. So I've certainly kind of found a groove in terms of using them both. So I am interested in this combination. I'm also interested to see as time goes on whether there will be more government compliance, integration with Yammer and Viva and all that good stuff. So that was just a little spiel based on this, pretty recent announcement of this article here in tech community. I think is just a couple weeks old. So again, I didn't know if there was any passionate opinions about Yammer out there, or maybe you're neutral, given it's not in government. Maybe you've used it outside of government. just pause and if there's any thoughts and comments, and then they'll give me a chance to see what's going on in that chat. But any Yammer or Viva Engage comments out there?
Ricardo, I guess one of the things that had stopped us is, if I remember correctly, there was Yammer was kind of a special situation. It was like, it wasn't, I can't remember if it was, they said it wasn't FedRAMPed or it just wasn't included in GCC. What I do remember saying is if an agency wanted to use it, they were on their own, more or less. And I went on a test environment, looked at Viva Engage, and all the URLs have Yammer in them. So I think if there's a way to get more information about, is it going to be, again, I don't know what the exact, why it didn't make it in as part of the package for GCC. I don't know if it's a FedRAMP thing or whether it's some sort of security controls. But if that's not going to happen, then I'm afraid, we're not going to get anywhere with it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think FedRAMP and maybe some other things are part of what's holding it back. What I don't know is what the there's I don't know of a date or anything or an aggressive plan to get those compliances. I don't know if there's not a plan there yet. So, but you're right. That is kind of what has been holding it back from the GCC space so far. So yeah. Until that happens, I totally get it that most government customers will may not worry about it for now. However, to your point and to the point of one of the comments in the chat about asking about the Q&A feature, which I think today does require Yammer on the back end. That's where Yammer's now become more relevant. I've had some customers ask more about it, whereas before it was just something I just didn't think about. But between this Viva Engage announcement, between the Q&A, having that Yammer integration, it's starting to become relevant. That may become complicated for government customers, at least for now. But it's certainly kind of coming back in the conversation. I think Stacy's had some customers ask about it as well. So we're just starting to hear more about it. So I thought it was worth mentioning.
I've had some customers definitely have the Q&A app pique their interest, and then it kind of opened up their eyes to Yammer, I think, just because the Q&A app had such potential and still does for the government cloud. I've done a little digging with the engineering teams to talk to anyone who would talk back to me about GCC and availability of the Q&A app and Yammer and now Viva Engage, and how that process is going to work, since Yammer was so extraneous to the GCC tenants for so long. And I do have, I don't know how concrete this is. So just for Cute for Teams, I'll throw this out there. I do believe there will still be an EA addendum required to use the Yammer service or the Viva Engage service. I think there's some homework being done now to make sure that we understand the boundaries of GCC and communicate clearly with customers, so that like Tim's concerns are addressed, that they understand where the boundaries might not work in the exact fashion as it does for some of the other GCC services. That said, I know that they are developing the Q&A app, Viva Engage, and other Viva modules to be delivered within the GCC service. It's just a matter of time. We don't have clarity on the roadmap yet, so hang in there. But as we get the ability to enable these services, even in an extraneous form, we will be happy to fill you in on that process and help you consider how your agency might leverage them. And then hopefully one day in the not so distant future, we will be able to deliver that within your Microsoft 365 GCC tenant as you get the other services as well.
And and then Tim brought up a good point in the chat, about the possibilities of Yammer and Viva Engage in terms of an employee communications platform, which sounds like what he and his organization's kind of looking at and interested in maybe Viva Engage for. I've also had customers ask the same thing. I will say, so outside of so Yammer, yes, is a great kind of not one to many, but many to many kind of platform for that kind of employee communication, or one to many, I guess. Some of the other approaches that I've seen folks use that can't use Yammer, one, recognizing the big limits that we have now on Teams and SharePoint sites, right? So if my numbers are still right, I think 10,000 maybe is the number of members in a team. Is it 10 or is it 25 now? I think 25,000 might be the number of people in a SharePoint site.
Yeah, I still think it's 10.
10, yeah. So that's a big number, right? And so I've seen customers consider for the whole org a single team for those employee communications, single site, and then again, if you're larger than 25, then you got some complications there. I like to joke that if I'm a 50,000 user org and I have a problem that 30,000 people are clamoring for these communications, that's a good problem to have, right? For many, getting 2,000 to read the communications would be a good thing. But anyway, those are some approaches. And then, of course, the one that we are touting a lot these days is the company communicator, as in terms of an employee communications platform, right? So that being able to blast messages out with engagement to your org will be the other approach. Oh, so it is $25K for a team. Okay.
Yes, for a regular team it's 25, but 10, okay. The 10,000 limit is for an org wide team.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So anyway, those are big numbers, 10 or 25. Those are big numbers, much bigger than they were a few years back. And I suspect that, there's probably possibility for it to grow in the future. But yeah, depending on your org, those sizes could be more than enough to do some org-wide, communication and collaboration from that perspective. So yeah, so good. So all of that being said, the large limits, company communicator, and then potentially Yammer / Engage as another means there. But all that being said, it's really about let's get beyond our current ways of doing employee and communication and engagement. Let's get beyond the standard email blast and see if we can do better with things like Teams, since we are Teams champions.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. In the chat, we have several large teams, including one more than 6,000, essentially function like Yammer, but people have trouble finding info on them, and something with a better way to find info would be useful. Yeah, that's one I won't go too far on it. That's one I could talk about a lot too, in terms of search and discoverability, really across M365, which has gotten leaps and bounds better than a few years ago, but still has, I think, some opportunities to get even better. As we're talking about Yammer and Engage, for instance, if you use those, you will quickly see that it has its own search box for searching Yammer specific stuff. It is separate from the search box in Teams, which is searching Teams specific and OneDrive and specific stuff. And those are different from the search box on your O365 homepage, which is really searching everything. So, when you say people are having trouble finding things, a lot of times it's going to start with the search. It is a lot better in that, if someone is on a Teams site, a Teams group or area, they search for something, there's great filters in there. Am I searching for a message or a file, or am I searching for something from a specific person? Certainly, the more you know about what you're searching for, the better. If people are, though, browsing, pointing and clicking, I can see challenges across really all technology, right? If you're not going to let search use its AI to find things for you, and you'd rather click and hope for an elegant hierarchy out there to find things that can be challenging, and whether it's Teams or SharePoint or Yammer or whatever. But I will say, my tip, I guess, would just be to help them understand that there is that search box there is relatively smart. The main negative I've heard about it is it maybe not searching enough history, too much scrolling, that kind of thing, but it's there. And as the chat is pointing out about the search boxes, is there any plan to integrate a complete office.com type search within apps so you can search everything without having to switch to the browser to search? I don't have a definitive answer. I kind of want to say yes, that's the plan, simply because that has been the path the last few years. We continue to comprehensive search continues to be the path. The last one, when I saw, I think more and more filters are coming on the side that are including things that weren't included in the past in your single search, right? So a search that is searching both SharePoint stuff as well as team stuff. Searching your mail as well as your chats, those kind of things. So I think that's the path we're on. And even until we get there, I'd probably count, if you include Yammer, I'd probably count 3 search boxes that if you use those 3, the thing you want is probably in one of those 3 search boxes. A few years back, there used to be like 7 of them. I would go to like 7 different places to do a full search of all things. And now I feel like there's 3. So that's progress, right? So yes, but one day, one search box to rule them all is what we all want. I totally agree with you, and I think we're getting there. So, good stuff. So yeah, we kind of went down a few rabbit holes there. Trying to remember where I think it was just Yammer where we started.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's good. That's good stuff, because really, again, we're talking about this. We're talking about a lot of collaboration tools out there, and this goal of bringing them all together. That, for us Teams champions, that I imagine that's one of the reasons why you're a Teams geek. That's one of the main value adds of Teams, is all my stuff in one place. And so we're the type of people that want even more of our stuff in one place. We don't like going to other tools. So I'm glad that we're trying to head down that path, even if we're not fully there today. Good stuff. Any other comments on that? Okay. So see, the chat is active. I'm trying to check on that. So I see a comment about chat. It's my understanding you can delete what you wrote, but you cannot delete what other people wrote. Correct. However, one user wrote to me today, I noticed that I can delete Teams chats, not all, but some. So can organizers, owners delete line items that others wrote, or entire chats? Can users delete what others wrote? I'm not aware of end user being able to delete a chat from someone else. Stacy, does that sound right to you?
No, but I was just going to a team to manage where I have ownership, because I do think there is something under settings, member permissions. Owners, there's some member permissions here that owners can delete messages, and you can give members the option to delete their messages or give them the option to edit their messages. But in no place are you allowing members to delete others' messages. Right. So confirmation on that. But these 3 are key. And the fact that the owner can change these means in one channel where you contribute, it may behave differently than in another team's channel. So that is the difference there. It's up to the owner.
And then I would then ask the question, or I think anyone, doing best practices would ask why, why would what world am I in where I want to take away the option of people to delete and edit their messages? Because, for instance, editing a message is, I'm taking away their ability. Oh, I mistyped this. Let me go type it correctly, blah, blah, blah. If I take that away, then all the typos remain forever, right? But what I would suspect what this likely is a team that, maybe some compliance or, is really required such that we're going to use this as some form of system of record. So, I don't want somebody committing to, complete project X here and then being able to go back and change the date of their, of what they said they do. Something to that effect, I would think, is why one might uncheck these boxes. I don't know if anyone on the line has unchecked them for other reasons, but that would be my thought. And if you're doing this, you might also be playing in the space of e-discovery and retention. You might have certain retention policies for either preservation or deletion in terms of your chats as well. So that's what I feel like these check boxes and this conversation is really about, in that space of how do we control the preservation or deletion of the data there. So hopefully that helps. The chat's in a good way is going fast enough that I'm sure I'm missing something. So if I am, feel free to come off mute and let me know. But hopefully that helped answer that question.
Yeah, I think that was great. I do want to shout out for James's question in the chat. There's some confusion in GCC, and Ricardo, this is going to be a topic that you recognize very quickly about Planner and tasks by Planner and To Do, and the Tasks app and its state in GCC, because the roadmap for that process in GCC has been a little bit choppy. And so I certainly have had this question come up, and I do pull on the powers that be and try to ask and find new information about this topic periodically. And I was just going to, with you, demo here the integration of the To Do app with Planner, and just show the state of it today. And just I guess I'll park here too and just say that I have my feeler out for any new releases in this regard, but there's nothing on the public roadmap today to indicate that this is being that this is on the what's the word I'm looking for, on the back burner perhaps, right. But I'm happy to continue to advocate for bringing it to the front burner on high.
Yeah, because I think we mentioned this maybe in the previous session. Certainly in the commercial one, there is the integration that I think we're talking about, which is tasks, your to-do tasks or personal tasks, and your, call it team tasks, all integrated into one. Here, as we're looking at in a GCC teams, it's really just Planner, which call that your teams tasks. So you do at least have a landing page for that, and you do still have personal tasks with To Do. They're just not integrated into teams. Now, and I think another part of that question in chat though may be, again, the just the inconsistency of if it was there before, and today, as we're looking at it right here, it's just Planner, no mention of tasks or To Do or anything. If there's some inconsistency, then that kind of, I think, speaks to what Stacy's talking about, where we're trying to just get a feel for what the plan is there, and maybe the road's a little rocky on the path to getting that integration.
Yeah, and he does mention that there perhaps used to be that you could assign a task from a file, and I don't recall being able to do that. Is that something that you specifically remember? And if so, maybe we could do a quick test now, but don't know that that's.
So I feel like that was a part of the comments feature. So you come here. Let's see. I feel like I should get out of this, whatever this thing is. When you see a yellow banner, you should just abandon it.
Abort mission.
Right. So let's see. So I thought it would have been from here, and if I go over to my commercial, it might work that way. But being able to mention folks in a message and assign things from here, I think is maybe what is being described in the chat. And I'd have to check my commercial tenant to see if that's there. But at least from here, at least from comments here in a GCC demo environment, that doesn't seem to be the case. Either that or I'm doing something wrong. But I think that's what's being referred to, being able to sign from a file. It says a file within a folder in Teams. We have a Teams channel, and in that channel from those files is where we used to be able to assign a task. Yeah, that's not ringing a bell there. So yeah.
I mean, that's basically a SharePoint list. So, or a SharePoint document library, sorry. So I don't know that there is or even was, but I could be wrong for certain.
Yeah, certainly with Power Automate, you could certainly build that out. But whether there was something native previously, I am not sure. Just double checking here. If anybody else remembers or knows, let me know. But yeah, so certainly do a workflow that did it, but I don't see anything natively for creating a task right here. So, yeah, something we'll look out for. All right. Let me get back to here. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, the task piece, and certainly once that integration comes, I'm going to be all over it in terms of talking about it for the advantages for government customers and everything, because that's again, I think I did that a couple weeks back. There's a lot of cool advantages there for that. Some good stuff. Trying to see if I missed anything on the chat. Okay. Anything else? Anybody didn't have time to type? Want to come off mute and talk about? Got a minute or so left. And in the chat mentioning Loop in Teams. I am hearing about that showing up in GCC. It's certainly in commercial. I'm checking this tenant here, and I'm not seeing it here in chat. I think I can check channels here. Host, no Loop there either, so I'm not seeing it here. Showed up in Outlook yesterday. Okay, hoping that means we're close. Yeah, I would imagine that we're probably close. So yeah, as soon as that pops up, I'm happy to dive into Loop, and I can certainly dive into it on the commercial side as well, in anticipation of it showing up, in the GCC. But yes, certainly some interesting collaboration scenarios with Loop. My initial thought for Loop was, well, don't I get that with my Office files and real-time collaboration? And that is true, but I have come to learn there's a lot of advantages to the file agnostic nature of real-time collaboration components. So we can definitely, if that's of interest to you, maybe show by a sign of thumbs up or hands or something. If that's of interest, we can dive into that in preparation for talking more about it as it hits GCC. So Good stuff. Appreciate all the interaction here. Oh, I see. Says loop is scheduled for May 2023. So somebody's checked the roadmap for us. Appreciate that. So May 23 at the latest, let's say. So good stuff. Okay. I'm glad everybody's able to join. We'll keep it going next week. If you're new, glad to see you. Hope to see you again. And yeah, thanks for joining Q for Teams. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and check out the blog for more content.